Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to go through FRQ Friday number 1 for AP Human Geography on population within Jordan. So this is a shorter FRQ compared to what you'll see on the AP exam, but nonetheless, it is a good introduction to answering FRQ questions. So how does this work exactly? How will any of these work? So I have a prompt in the description down below that you can use for FRQ practice. And then in this video, I'm going to go over each part on the FRQ, give some tips and help regarding the concepts in answering FRQ questions, going through what students may miss more often, going through what College Board says about the topic, and overall trying to prepare you for the AP exam and your tests in class. So if you would like, go ahead and do the FRQ yourself and try to get through each part. There's only 4 of them this week. And then come back and go through the rubric with me. If you have any questions whatsoever at any point, send me a DM on Discord or leave a comment down below. My Discord is in the description as well. All right, so let's go through each 4 of these parts. So one of your FRQs on the AP exam will have one stimuli. That could be a map or a chart or even a picture if they wanted to. And then your third FRQ will have 2 stimuli. So 2 maps, or a map and a chart, and a map and an image, or 2 images, something like that. And they're going to ask you questions related to the concepts in the stimulus. So they could ask you very simple questions about reading the stimuli, like where's a cluster or dispersal, or in this case, the scale and scale of analysis. So it says to identify the scale and scale of analysis. On an identify prompt, all you have to do is just give the answer. You don't need a description, a definition. You don't need an explanation. You don't need to compare it to anything. You don't need to give an example of anything. You just give the answer and move on. These can all be answered in one sentence. Just give it and move on. These are supposed to be the freebies. You will probably only see 1, maybe 2 of these on your entire AP exam. So take them with advantage, all right? Use them to your advantage. So how do we answer these? Well, what is the scale? The scale is national or country. We are looking at a country. That's why. All you need on the FRQ to get this point is just say in a complete sentence, this is a national scale. Great. You're halfway there. Now, what's the scale of analysis? The scale of analysis, we're comparing data between zones smaller than the country, so it's a sub-national scale of analysis. And then the other answer that would be acceptable is governorate. Now, why is that the acceptable answer here? Because if you look on the legend of the map, it says that these boundaries separate governorates. So that's what those regions are called. And that's what you can call the scale of analysis as well. Subnational would be the easy answer. That's the answer I would have gone with. And why is this not a regional scale of analysis? It technically is. But on the AP exam, College Board's going to distinguish between those passing and not passing, especially those between getting a 4 and a 5. People who are going to not pass this exam would probably say regional. Or they would say national. It's not national because that's our scale, and it's not regional because there's a better answer. And you always want to put the better answer. So subnational is a better answer than regional, because regional could be something greater than a one country. It could be a region of multiple countries. So subnational always means below the nation. It always means smaller than the countries. If this was a map of the United States, state would be the scale of analysis, because that's what our states are called. They're called states. What did I say here? The data is being compared between smaller, subnational entities, and that's known as governorates, which are shown on the key. In the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, you can see here I put the topic numbers that this part relates to. So 1.1 is dealing with the map itself, 1.3 is scale, and 1.6 is scale of analysis. So if you're struggling with this, you can see which part of the course that you may want to go back and relearn or re-practice a little bit here. But yeah, this is an identify. To get the 1 point for this part, you need to have both the scale and the scale of analysis. So you could say, sample answer here, The scale is national and the scale of analysis is subnational. Boom, that's the point. If you separate it into two sentences, that's fine. As long as you have that in your response, you get the point for part A. All right, so here's part B. Wait, what did I say here? Oh, yeah, regional, blah, 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 local. Local is not accepted at all because we're not really looking into the specific cities or the specific towns at all. Here we go. Part B. I'm ready now. So this is another 1.3. So describe, not identify, but describe. So that means give a description, give characteristics. A description of you would be characteristics about you, not just your personality, but also your physical traits, maybe your plans, or even your history, like your childhood. So describe one way that countries like Jordan may collect population data. Now, what comes to mind when you think of population data? What comes to my mind is the census. Now, if this was an identify, you could say the census, all right? A national census is how they would collect population data. But that's not going to work because it says describe. So you need to describe the census and describe how the population data is collected. So you would say something like a national census through surveying. You could say something like surveying through house-to-house visits or through doing a virtual surveying. Sometimes you could say over the phone or email, because in the United States, the last census was the first census that wasn't house-to-house, but it was done virtually or through mail. That's another one you could probably say is a national census through surveying households or citizens through mail-in surveys or something like that. To get the point, you would probably have to say national census, surveying, and then how they would survey as well, because there's a lot of different ways to surveying. And College Board wants you to be as specific as possible. Here's another one, a little longer of an answer, but not something to deal with the census, but you may know about this. It's not in the curriculum either, but it is common a little bit. So population registers, that's where individuals are required to register life events like births, deaths, marriages, changes of residence with local authorities. If you've ever moved, I don't think any of you have been married yet, or you haven't died either and you don't remember your birth, but in such events, you do have to register this with local authorities just so they know what's happening to their population, if the population is going up or down, and that sort of thing. If someone dies, they can't just tax the person. They have to know they're dead to stop taxing the person. So that's why they're important. So that's another way that they could collect population data without a census. It is separate from the census. And then another one, something kind of related to the technology that we learned about, the GIS, is you could use data from a GIS to just analyze spatial distribution or urbanization patterns or some kind of settlement pattern and distribution to estimate or determine the population distribution or population size. It's actually not asking, describe one way that countries may collect the number of people or the actual population. It's talking about population data. So that could include where people are located, and you can use a GIS for that. You can actually use a satellite for that, satellite imagery as well. So that might have been an answer that you would have said. If you answered something like this as well, to analyze spatial distribution and settlement patterns to determine population distribution, that would be okay as well. All right, here's another one. Define distance decay. So definition just means give the definition. You don't need to give an example. You don't need to explain why. Just say what it is and move on. Same thing with identifies. Definitions are going to be very infrequent, and they can be answered in one sentence. So on your AP exam, you should see a define, at least one, maybe two, and they should be kind of freebies. It's just vocab. You've been doing vocab since probably the second grade. So yeah, you just need to know what the terms actually mean, and you got a whole school year to learn them. So here's the vocab for this FRQ is distance decay. So define distance decay. So a sample answer would be, this distance decay is the strength of a relationship between people, or you could say places or systems, decreases as distance increases, or space increases, that sort of thing. College Board doesn't really like you to draw pictures in humanities classes like AP Human or AP Gov or AP World. They don't like pictures. If this was a STEM class, that could be a little different. So I wouldn't recommend drawing a diagram of any type on your AP exam. So really don't do that. I have this one here to kind of show you what this means. So what the graph shows is distance decay. So if travel time increases in minutes, distance decreases. So you can say interaction decreases as well. So yeah. What's another way you could have said this? Another way you could have said this is that there's an inverse relationship between interaction and distance. Something like that. That's a little more of a STEM answer, more of a sciencey math answer, but that's still technically true. All right, here's another one. Explain how distance decay may occur in people traveling across the country. So you're taking the definition and applying it to kind of a real world example, an application, and you will see that on the AP exam. So these are here to determine who passes and who does not. A lot of people who won't pass the exam will still get the point for the definition, but they're not going to get the point on the explanation. The explanations are where you're going to have to give the who, what, when, where, why, and how. You should be spending multiple sentences working on your explanation. I wouldn't recommend giving an introduction or a conclusion because that takes up too much time. You only have 25 minutes to do a 7-part FRQ. This one was only 4. Now, don't stress so much about it yet. You will get there. It's okay. But you do need to know that explains are your big boys. They're not your identifies or your defines. You need to be focusing a lot with these explains. So explain how distance decay may occur. So we know what distance decay is. Here's the definition again. The strength of relationship decreases as distance increases. Think of that graph. As distance increases, the travel decreases. So how could that occur between people traveling across the country? Well, travelers will go short distances or short distances more frequently. Travelers will move within the same regions or governorates. The farther away a place is, the less likely someone is to travel there. Or long distance traveling is more expensive. Or you could just say it uses more time or energy or resources. Travelers are more familiar with nearby places. Or you could say travelers are more familiar with nearby places, so they will travel to nearby places more likely. So what are the takeaways from this FRQ Friday? So the total points on this FRQ is just 4 because there's 4 parts. Each part on an FRQ is worth 1 point. So on the AP exam, you'll have 3 FRQs of 7 points. FRQs on the AP exam are 50% of your score, so they're not something that you can ignore. If you want to pass the AP exam, you have to get some points on the FRQ. Very, very rarely can you get maybe 1 or 2 points on the FRQ and still get a 3. And in those cases, you need 100 on the MCQ. Identifies and defines can be answered in 1 sentence. On these, you don't want to ramble. You want to save your times for the explains. And here's something related to the concepts. Distance decay is exponential negative correlation. As space increases, interaction decreases, travel decreases. Another takeaway is that scale and scale of analysis are different. Scale is what we're looking at. Are we looking at a map of a country? Then that is a country scale. Are we looking at a map of the world? That's a global scale. Scale of analysis is what the data is being compared between. Are we comparing the data between Florida and Georgia? Then that's a subnational scale of analysis. Are we comparing the data between Australia and New Zealand? Those are countries, so that's a country scale of analysis. All right. I don't know why I just didn't read off the slides because I'm cool. I don't have to read off the slide. Another one here is regional and local aren't always the best answers. You want to give the most specific answers. You're going to be tempted on an FRQ on the AP exam if they have population data between different cities, and you're going to want to say local, but city is going to be the best answer for scale of analysis. And yeah, that's the end of this video for the FRQ Friday. Let me know how you did in the description down below. Leave any questions that you have as well. I'll be happy to answer them. Or you could DM me on Discord. Please like, subscribe. It really does help me out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.